WHaTeR project, Water Harvesting Technologies Revisited, is a project that is aimed at promoting rainwater harvesting in Eastern and Southern Africa, mainly in the Sub-Saharan region. But we also looked at water harvesting also in the Sahel. Yes, the workshops were held in the respective countries. So we had the case of Burkina Faso. Burkina Faso, it was mainly in the northern region of Burkina Faso, where the lead organization, INERA, held a series of workshops to convene these stakeholders. Then the case of Ethiopia, we had Arbamich University that took the lead in that country. So we had meetings taking place in Arbamich and also in Awassa. So for the case of Tanzania, we had Sokoine University that took the lead. So they held their workshops mainly in Makanya, in Same district of Tanzania. In South Africa, the University of KwaZulu-Natal held both meetings in Pretoria. So their focus was a little bit different in that they wanted to have more of the national stakeholders participating in the meetings, whereas the stakeholder meetings for the communities were held in KwaZulu-Natal itself, where the local community was also able to participate in the meetings. The multi-stakeholder workshops were basically to identify who are the key stakeholders, that is, those people who can contribute to the success or failure of the project. So in each of the case study countries, we conducted mapping of key stakeholders. So these key stakeholders were identified, and mainly they were coming from the government, ministries, such as the Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Water. We also had people from the academia, that is from universities. We had stakeholders coming from NGOs like Care International, World Vision, those NGOs that are working within the study sites. We had the local authorities who are engaged in agriculture. And then last but not least, we also had the beneficiaries also interacting in the stakeholder workshops. We looked at spate irrigation in Ethiopia. We looked at farm ponds. We also looked at traditional water harvesting techniques such as the ndiva in Tanzania. And then in South Africa, we also looked at roof water harvesting from the roof catchment into plastic tanks, which are known as roto tanks. So by looking at these different techniques, we were trying to evaluate them, assess their performance, and then come up with recommendations for improvement. And thereafter, these improvements were sort of communicated with the communities who are involved with these techniques. And then we tried to assess now the performance of these techniques in food production. In Tanzania, it was mainly a traditional rainwater harvesting system where traditionally the communities collect water in what we call ndivas. So a ndiva is a storage tank that is constructed in the upper part of the landscape. So after the water is collected and stored overnight, the farmers release the water using open earth canals. But they also looked at spate irrigation, and spate irrigation is flood water that is collected from riverbeds that is diverted onto the farmers' fields. so that the moisture remains in the soil for some time, and then the farmers can grow their crops. So during these stakeholder workshops, we presented the ideas. I mentioned earlier about the different techniques that were tried out in the different countries. So we tried to then communicate to them what improvements could be done. And after we had done the research and technology development activities, that is when the improvements had been done, then we also held a second series of multi-stakeholder workshops, during which the results of the research and technology development activities were communicated back to the communities. And we also tried to find ways in which now the improved technologies can be upscaled. But another important aspect that we were trying to look at is we were trying to formulate ways in which these stakeholders can continue to have more or less like permanent platforms through which they can communicate and interact on water harvesting. And what we found in our research is that apart from Ethiopia, all other countries do not have any other like forum or platform through which water harvesting is regularly communicated, and we can see that there's some kind of interaction between the different stakeholders. So I think by the end of the project, we had proposals coming from South Africa, where they would like to set up a rainwater harvesting association through which they can then have a much more permanent way in which they can communicate on water harvesting technologies. The same case is for Burkina Faso, where they would like to have this platform. In Tanzania and Ethiopia, these associations already exist. So the communication is much better in the two countries compared to the ones I mentioned earlier, the case of South Africa and also the case of Burkina Faso.